So good afternoon. This 1 hour session using calculators, tools, and math question types inside of the Schoology platform. We will be taking a look at Schoology course level assessment. My name is Lori Collier. I am a senior professional development specialist here at Schoology. I've been with Schoology about 6.5 years. Prior to that, I spent 15 years at an educational service center and a state technology center in Northeast Ohio. I work out of my home in Canton. I am about an hour south of Cleveland. I have done a number of different sessions for Mastery Charter since you guys came on board. I think it was last May. Kind of a whirlwind, and it seems kind of long ago, all at the same time. So I'm happy to be with you guys this afternoon. So the calculators, tools, and math question type session, the title kind of takes it all in. We are going to take a look at course level assessment, but we are going to be looking at some of the math specific question types. They do lend themselves to other content areas as well, but we do like to highlight the keyboard options that are available for different math and science classes. And we do actually have some different question types that we will be building together. So we'll give you a little student experience, talk about some of the question types, and then we'll build some of those together as well. So let me give you the course code, and give me just a second. I'll promise I'll put that back up on the screen. Make sure I copied the right one. I did. Okay. Had a couple of different sessions today and I was prepping everything at the same time. So I always like to double check and make sure I got the right course code. All right, I will drop that course code in the chat window in just a second, but what are you going to do with that code? So if it's been a while since you joined a training course, you're going to click on courses at the very top, my courses, all the way over on the far right. Mine's loading. There it goes. You're then going to press that button for join a course. And then you will be able to copy and paste that access code. I've got it coming your direction. It is in the chat window. I will also put that back up on the screen here in just a second. When you put the access code in, you're going to press that join button. If you hold tight there, we will all be back together in just a second. We'll get everybody in the same spot. If you have any trouble with that course code, usually copying and pasting will work. Every once in a while, sometimes it'll give you a hard time just because you are copying and pasting. If you type it in, that usually solves that problem. So just as a reminder, your students don't need to be doing this. They're already in your appropriate courses. We do this for training to get you from your environment into my school. So that is the reason we are doing that. Once you've put in that course code and pressed that join button, the easiest thing to do is click your logo in the upper left-hand corner and scroll down. We load new courses at the bottom, and it is called Using Calculators, Tools, and Math Question Types. It has like a circle as part of the logo, and the Schoology S is in the center of that circle. I will be there in just a second. I don't see anybody in the chat window telling me they're having trouble, so we're going to get out of that slide deck. You've put in that code, you've pressed the join button. Truly, click that logo in the upper left-hand corner and scroll down. Using calculators, tools, and math question types. It is a black and white, just a little bit of blue Schoology S logo, and simply click the picture and it will take you into my training course. So today's agenda and slide deck are in there if you like to follow along. When we are done, I know Wales is here. I will upload today's recording into this training course, and I will make Wales an admin. She will be able to copy over any of the different materials that we are using. So especially the sample questions and the pictures that we're going to use. We're not going to get to all of them. We actually have lots of extra ones in here. But that way, if you want to practice some more or need to work with anybody, you already have questions and pictures to go along with it. But what we're going to do first is your student experience. You will see in the training course, right in the middle or over to the right, because it has today's date on it, has a due date, sample math question types and tools test. So go ahead, launch that by clicking on it. You are a student, so it will tell you that you have so many attempts. I don't even know what I set it to, but that's okay. You can start your attempt, and on my screen, the webinar screen, we're going to be looking at the exact same item. So I do like for you to take the hands-on version rather than just watch. But what is important from the teacher perspective, and that's what I have on the webinar screen, I do have a preview button at the top. And what I love about this is when you start to use some of these different question types, your students might have questions or they don't understand what they are supposed to be doing. You can make a sample assessment and then click preview and show them how the question types work. So you don't even have to try and impersonate a student or what does it look like to be a student. You just use preview. So I do love that option with the assessment question type. So it is always there. I'm going to click preview. You actually have 20 attempts, so you got plenty of chances. And don't worry if you don't get all the answers correct. We're not going to take time to look up the answers. All right. We're going to start our assessment. I will tell you most of them say the question type, but we'll kind of talk about that. What's also important is taking a look at the toolbar going down the right-hand side of your assessment. We'll play around with some of those. Fill in the blank. This is a great option for math practice facts. Some of the simpler items that my students can just fill in the blank. I love fill in the blank. It works great for math because it's right or wrong. There's no in between here. You either have the right number or the wrong number. So fill in the blank does great with that. It also does great with spelling words or things with language classes or English as a second language. So you can use it other ways as well. Navigation is always across the bottom, one question per page. Question number 2, I know we use this question example a lot. I throw it in all kinds of different places. It's graph paper, and you can draw on that graph paper. And so what I also like about this, up at the top, it tells my students that point A should be at a certain spot. Point B should be use 3 different colors. Well, in the upper right-hand corner of my graph paper is the drop-down arrow that allows me to pick those different colors. My students can pick any color combinations that they want, but I can put my answer on there. I can label it. If they make a mistake, they can use the undo or the clear button. And from the teacher perspective, when we go to grade this, it actually does show me a video of you answering the question so I can see your keystrokes. The other important item here is I went and got the graph paper off the internet. There's lots of places to get copyright-free images, but I cropped it down. And so we can only draw on the graph paper. What if I had cropped this picture bigger and left white space on the far right or on the far left? My students would be able to draw in that white space. So take that into consideration when you start to bring in pictures. I passed this graph paper through Google Draw to crop it down. But again, I could have left my students some workspace if I wanted to, and they'd be able to draw in that workspace. As we continue on, let's look at our toolbar. There is a little black flag over there. That little flag means flag for review. My students can flag the questions and it will give them a reminder at the end of which questions they flagged. So go ahead and use that feature as much as you want. Question number 3. This is actually one of our math short answer question types. That keyboard does move around on the screen, so my students can move it out of the way. And my screen is also zoomed in for training, so it does take up most of my screen. So I could zoom out, and that's going to make that a little bit better, and I can move that around and get it out of my way. So what is happening here? We uploaded an image, we put in some formula types up there, but when we click in the answer box down below, I can, as a student, I can answer the question, and I can also use some of the formulas. So X equals, and I could make a number, I can make fractions. So you can play around with those options. There is also a typing option. So you'll notice in the window where I'm typing my answers, there's a sigma symbol and then there's a T. The T means typing. And so my students can use that to answer the short answer portion of the question. And then they could move on and give me more of the formula. So if they need to mix those items in, they can go ahead and do that. So it does allow them to show a formula. It's not solving it for them. They would have to make the formula to show you how to solve the question. So again, giving them a place to show their work and write out those formulas. While we are here, another tool going down the right is a calculator. Schoology has basic calculators as well as a scientific calculator, and you can decide on which one you want. And that's on the toolbar. In addition to that, on the question types, you can embed a calculator, which can be basic or scientific. So if you don't want them to have the calculator on the toolbar and you want it on a question, you can give it to them. Doesn't stop them from going back and using it, but it does give you some flexibility as to where that calculator is going to appear. All right. Question number 4 is a fill in the blank question, but looking at your toolbar, you can grab the protractor, move that around on the screen, line that up. Some days I do better at this than others. And then I can measure the angle with my protractor. There we go. So that moves around, it circles around. This is another one of those items that if you don't need the protractor, don't put it on the toolbar. And I say that because this can be a bit of a distractor for our students, you know, spinning that around, moving it around, playing with it. If you need it, you can embed the protractor on just the one question or two questions that you need. If you need it over and over again, then all means put it on the toolbar. Again, options and flexibility. We can turn that protractor back off by clicking on our toolbar. And the next question, I am on question 5. There's a little cabinet on there. It's a 2-part question, but it also uses our ruler. You have a 6-inch ruler. There is a 12-centimeter ruler. That's on the toolbar. And then to embed, you get a 15-centimeter ruler and maybe a 12-inch ruler. So there's some options where the rulers come into play as well. But we're going to look at all those. So I just like to mention them if you're like, well, I really need a longer ruler for whatever reason. We can go ahead and line that up, measure it, and then again, we've got keyboard options that my students would be able to use. Turn my ruler off, close my keyboard, and I'm going to move on to question 6. The next question type, still using that ruler, but this is fill in the blank, drag and drop. So basically, it's kind of like a word bank that you would see in language arts, but yet it's a number bank and it's a measurement bank. And so my students can measure the item and decide which answers do they want. The other item here that I get to show you is also on your toolbar, the A with the line through it. That's the eliminate answer choice. So my student measures the scissors and they know they're not as long as 6 inches. So they can come down here and eliminate all the answers that are 6 inches and bigger. And then they have to decide what the answer is for what's the measurement of the scissors. So they can use the eliminate answer choice as a tool to help themselves better answer that question. So we teach them that, on a paper test, you cross out the ones you don't need. Well, this is how you do it electronically. Eliminate answer choice works here because there's multiple extra answers. It works on multiple choice. It would work on matching if I had extra answers. So label image where there's extra answers. So lots of different places to use the eliminate answer choice option. But here again, this is drag and drop. And our students need that drag and drop function for state and national tests. And so it's allowing them to practice that skill on a daily basis. And all right. And I'm really not that worried about your correct answers. I'm more worried about you trying out the different features. Number line. I'm on question number 8. We have some different chart options. And so you have to build the table for the line graph. And then our students are going to drag and pull the answers up to the appropriate spot within that chart. So we're not going to do all of them. We're just going to practice a few of those. But those answers can stop at any point within that chart. Question number 9 has some pictures up above. So it's got a table with pictures, which are then labeled. But then again, my students have to figure out the volume and then drag the appropriate answers onto the number line based on volume. So it's just a different way to use a number line. Don't look at my answers. I promise you they're wrong. I didn't write that question. Question 10 is a chemistry question, but you actually have the grouping symbols that are needed for chemistry. So you will see those. How did I get those? Because the default showed me a keyboard. Well, there's a drop down arrow in the upper left-hand corner of that keyboard that popped up, and I can switch the keyboard to the basic calculator with the basic functionality. I can also find the grouping symbols. You pick and choose what's going to show as options for the students. This is the math short answer, but just with different keyboard options. 15 different keyboard options. We have pictures all of them for you. Another number line, but it is chemistry. I'm on number 12. We're going to convert the binary number into a hexadecimal. My manager, Lisa, used to be a math teacher. She wrote all of these questions. And then finally, a chart option that is government, economics, or social studies, depending on where that falls in your curriculum. And it's so appropriate. The Electoral College. I only know a couple of them. I do know Ohio, 18. All right. There is a review screen. This is important. The flag for review. If you flagged a question, it'll show up. The little flag will be there on your review screen. If you didn't answer a question, and I skipped 2 of them, there's no like dark gray bar across the bottom of a couple of my questions. So when your students go to submit this, it will say, it looks like you didn't answer 2 questions. Do you want to go back or do you want to submit? So it gives them the chance to still go back and finish their work. But that's what these visual indicators are showing. For you as a student, it's a 2-step process to submit your work. It's going to be finish and then submit. For me as the teacher, I don't see that option, but it is very important that students understand they get that review screen, finish, and then submit. If they don't submit, it's like they didn't turn their test in. So they have to click submit. I stress this, I underline it, I put blinking lights around it. And my son, who can probably hear me, he's 12 and he's my kid. And he's had a couple assessments where he didn't press submit. I'm like, you didn't turn it in. He's like, well, I thought I did. I'm like, you have to press submit. It's a 2-step process. So even my own kid has missed it. So that is why I stress it. All right. Make sure you have submitted your assessment to me. I will grade those. I promise. It's okay if you didn't get them all right. That's not what we're here for. All right. We want to gather the components we need to build a few questions together. So in our training course, there is a folder. It's yellow. It says sample questions. You click the title of it. You are going to find a media album, Math Images for Question Building. Go ahead and click that title. And you're going to see the graph paper. There's a map. There's some angles. Click the graph paper so it's full size. It's got to be full size. It can't just be the little thumbnails. We're going to download all the pictures. We are not going to have time to use them all, but that way you have them. And then if you want to practice when training's done or build some extra questions, you have everything you need. The graph paper is full size. Look to the right of the graph paper and you're going to see the title. It's going to say graph.jpg. Click on that. It is going to download the graph paper. Mine are going to my toolbar across the bottom, like my little tray, but they're also going to my downloads folder. And that's really where we're going to find those. Right above the graph paper, it says previous or next. They're clickable links. Click the link that says next, not the button all the way at the top, not that button. We want the words previous and next. The next image is a circle graph, circlegraph.jpg. Go ahead and download that one. You're going to do all of them. Like I said, we're not going to get to all of them, but that way you have them. There's a map of San Diego. Measuring angles. We can skip the word tally sheet that one's actually in there for language arts. We're going to skip that one. We got enough other questions to do. The angle .jpg. There's a cupboard. We may or may not get to that one, but it's in there. And finally, the triangle.jpg. So just download them all. Still in the yellow folder. So at the top of your screen after you've downloaded your pictures, you're going to see the yellow folder and the name, sample questions. In the yellow folder is sample questions using calculators, tools. It's a Google Doc. Just open it. I read you the questions, but a lot of times we can save time by copying and pasting. And it shows you the answers and that type of thing. So makes it easier. A couple of them have the alignment. They're aligned. Some of those are aligned to Common Core standards. So the alignment is in there as well. But mostly I read them to you, but it's a lot easier for you to see it as we're doing it. All right. We are done for you in the sample course right now. So in our training course, that's where I'm going to build, but you guys are my students and I need you to stay students so I can grade your test. So where are you going to go build at? Well, click your logo in the upper left-hand corner. Do you still have sandbox courses or practice courses floating around? You probably do. Or you can always use a live course and we just won't publish it for your students. They'll never know you're in there working. So you need to find a course where you are the instructor. So click the logo in the upper left-hand corner and look for a course where you have that yellow shield with the blue star. Sandbox or practice courses are perfect if you still have one. If not, it's okay. You can use a live course. All right. I'm going to stop there in case you were far behind me, still downloading pictures or anything like that. I want to give you a chance. So where are we at right now? You should be in a course where you're the instructor. You should have the Google Doc open so that you can build and practice questions. And you should have downloaded the pictures from the training course so that you have pictures to upload. If you are in the position of, you know what, I just want to watch and then I'm going to practice later, that's okay. If you want to build with me, you need all those components. You'll have access to all of your components after the training because you'll have the course that you're in right now and you can always practice later on. All right. We are going to start building our assessment. So in your course, we're going to click that Add Materials button, Add Assessment. And we're going to give this a title. Don't forget, assessments can be used for more than just that end of unit test. They could be math practice facts. They could be study guides. And so you have some flexibility when you're creating those. For today, this is just going to be my Chapter 6 test. I'm going to give it a due date. How many points is it worth in my class? I will come back to submissions and password in just a second. Category. What category does this fall in inside of your organization? So I think you have, it's been a while, Wales. I know you guys were using like course level assessment, I think for practice. Like I said, it's been a while. Pick a category, whichever one is the appropriate one it should be in. Your grading period will, there we go, summative your Your grading period will automatically populate. So whatever the date is, it's going to grab the appropriate grading period. Factor is always 1. We just count that score one time. The scale is that numeric scale, or if they have pushed out that building-wide scale that you guys have been using, whatever you're accustomed to using. We're not changing anything here, folks. All right, now, this is where we have to make things available for our students. At the bottom, under options, you will see the green circle. The green circle means this assessment is published to my students. Published means they can see it. They can see the title, they can see the due date, and it shows up on their calendar. They cannot launch it and take it until we change submission. So it's a 2-step process. Publish should always be on because I want my students to see it coming. I want them to see the due date. Now, if you're in a live course and we're practicing building, turn off the publish. But in the real world of making assessments for your students, that green circle would be on. Now, submissions and password. Submissions, this is what makes it available for my students to launch the assessment and actually take it. This is the one where it's disabled while you're building. It's disabled until you're ready for them to take it. Then you click your gear icon and change it to enable. For today and for practice purposes, it would be disabled. So when I set up my training course for all of you, I spun off my copy, I went in, I made sure submissions were enabled and that it was published so that you could take it. The password is completely optional. You can password protect your assessments if you want. You don't have to, but sometimes people like to do that. So it's just simply a word or a series of letters and numbers. So if you enable that, you make the password and then you have to give the password to the students before they can take the assessment. All right, go ahead, click create. We're going to run down the setup real quick, instructions if you need them. So this is a spot where if your students are allowed to use scratch paper, you could tell them that. And maybe they need to turn that scratch paper into you. If you are doing e-learning, there is actually a question type that allows students to upload an image. They could take a picture of their scratch paper and turn that into you as one of their question types. So there is still a way to collect that scratch paper if you want it. All right, working our way down the list. Assessment has a time limit. I'm a huge fan of no. And that's because things happen. Batteries die in devices, Wi-Fi goes out. I'm going to be honest, about an hour ago when I was in training, my system blinked and my webinar shut down and then it immediately popped back up. But still, my internet blinked. And that, running a timer, then you have to, that timer's running and it's just easier, I think, without the timer. Assessment questions are randomly ordered. I'm a big fan of that one. Show possible points. Middle school, high school students tend to like that. It's an option. You don't have to use it. Now, all those tools that we ran down, here they are. Flag for review. Eliminate answer choice. Do you need a calculator, basic or scientific? Do you need a ruler? Yes or no? 15 centimeter or 6-inch. Protractor. There's a notepad and highlight text. We tend to use those more with like ELA based or that type of session, but they are actually features you could go ahead and turn on. Allow students to view results after an attempt is submitted. No is the correct answer here. And that is because you have multiple sections that need to take it. You have math short answer essay questions that need to be graded by hand. Math short answer essay is no different than short answer essay for my ELA folks. It's that you get to use math keyboards. You still have to grade it by hand. So you want to get all the grading done and all that work done before students can see their results. Once that's done, change it to yes with correct answers. The middle point, the yes, allows students to view results after an attempt is submitted. Yes is a great option for study guides because it allows students to see what they got correct, but it doesn't give them the correct answer if it was wrong. So they can take it over and over again based on number of attempts. This was my chapter 6 test. They get one chance, and I'm going to set it to no. And then we're going to click save. I do watch the chat window while I'm doing all of that. I didn't see any questions pop up. We're going to scroll up. You have some tabs up here. We're on the setup tab. We're going to go to the questions tab. I will show you grading and reporting. And towards the right, there's a big blue button that says preview. The preview is what I used to do the preview of the assessment. So Wales said that somebody asked me about the text-to-speech that's on my screen. Text-to-speech is available from AMP, the assessment management platform. And because I train on that part of the Schoology platform, it's available for me, but it's a feature that's inside of AMP, which you guys do not have. So that is why you do not see that. All right. We are going to move over to the questions tab. You'll notice down the left-hand side, all these different question types. We're going to power through as many as we can. The first one, highlight image. This is the one with the graph paper, and it's actually very easy to set up. There's not a lot of extra options here. So as we look down the left-hand side of our question setup screen, we are going to go down to highlight image. Make sure you pick the right one. Give it a second to load. And we're going to put our cursor in the question setup box, and you're going to see like the description line pop up, bold, italic, underline. You're going to see all those features up there. So that means I've clicked in my question box. I am going to copy my text off of my Google Doc and paste it into question setup. It's telling my students to graph points A, B, and C. And I can edit that text or do whatever else I need to it. Right below where I've pasted in the text, there is a button that says upload image. This is where, when you press that button, we're going to grab the graph paper and upload it. Now, please remember, this could be a white JPEG, like a white box, and now you suddenly have a whiteboard for your students. So it doesn't have to just be graph paper. It could be something else. It's just the graph paper is a question we would get a lot, and the whiteboard is a question we get a lot. I could drag and drop, except I had so many pictures that my graph paper isn't in my tray. So we're going to click that plus sign to add our image, and I'm just going to navigate to where my images are stored, which in this case was my downloads folder. There's my graph paper. I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to click open, and it's going to upload. We're going to scroll down. You actually kind of have a little window here. There's actually a couple scroll bars. If you scroll down and you see more options at the bottom and pop that open, you can change the width and the height of that image. Now, I'm gonna be honest, my graph paper sized pretty well. I sized it before I brought it in on purpose. So it'd be sized okay for you. But if you have something that's too big, you can always resize it here. We're gonna click the OK button. And you're gonna feel like that didn't work and it didn't do anything. Actually, it did. First, click the Save button. And now we're gonna click back in our question. There's not a lot of setup here because it's student driven. It's a hand scored question, but click the preview question in the upper right-hand corner. There's my graph paper. Once you put in the question and upload the image, that's it, you're done. There's no more setup because it's a hand scored question. So Ms. Pena, I see your question. You guys don't have text to speech, so I'm not going to show that feature. It is because I teach the assessment management platform portion of Schoology that I have it available in my training school, but you guys don't have that, so we're not going to go down that road. It is a separate product that can be added on to Schoology. All right, so we did our graph paper, and we're going to scroll down. I'm going to skip fill in the blank, and we're going to go right to math short answer. It's probably what you guys are all here for. You want to see what does that question type do. So on the Google Doc, and I don't have too many of you in there, so let me pop this Google Doc over on the webinar screen. I'm going to do this math short answer question with the triangle, but let me scroll this document down. There's a couple more in here. Math short answer using the ruler. These are all math short answer questions. They're just set up with different keyboard options, and I will show that to you. They have different parts to the question. So one of them has a picture embedded. It has part 1 and part 2. Math short answer using the protractor. So you have different questions in here, but they're all using math short answer. So if you're with me and you're building and you want to do one of the other ones, that's okay. Actually, I'm going to do the one, I'm going to scroll down and do the math short answer with the protractor. It's on page 5 because it lets me show you more features. Okay. All right. Down the left-hand side, math short answer. That is the question type. And I am going to highlight the text for the question, cheating, copying and pasting. But what about that angle picture? There's no button here that says upload image. How do I get the pictures I need into my body of the question? Because that's really what that is. The image that I need is part of the question. How do I get that in there? There is about halfway over. You have to be clicked in question setup. If you are not, you don't see the description line. When I'm clicked in question setup, I see the description line, the bold, italic, underline. Keep going. Halfway over, there is the little picture with the mountains and the sun. That's the image icon. We're going to click that. And this is where I can, we're about ready to find out. I think it's measuring angles. Oh, good, I grabbed the right one. I was able to drag and drop that onto the plus sign. Now, if it's too big, I can size it down below, or I'm just going to click OK. If it's too big, once I get it into the question, I can click on it and just drag and resize it. So this, I can drag and resize inside the body of the question. I couldn't have done that with the graph paper. All right. Now, how did I get, I copied and pasted, but look, use the protractor to measure angle BAG and angle BCD. Where'd that crazy little symbol come from? Let me show you. I'm going to retype that sentence. Use the protractor tool to measure, where's the angle? Where do I get that little symbol? Next to the image icon on your description line is sigma. And under sigma, it loads. Did they change that? They did. Give me just a second. I need the, give me a second. There it is. It's a geometry symbol. So it is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 menus down. It says all symbols and then basic, and then there's an algebra. There's my angle symbol. And I can type in, what do I want that to say? Which was BAG. And I can click OK. So if you need those symbols, look under the sigma tool. Also up there in that same little space is omega. There are some other symbols up there as well. And so you'll see letters with accents. So that might come into play on some of your questions, but just want you to know there's 2 different areas there that you're going to be able to find some things. But that's where those angle symbols came from. Yeah, it's easy when I copy and paste, but not when you have to do it by yourself. All right. Finally, what about the protractor? I can put it on the toolbar, but what if I only need it for one question? Well, back up to the description line. There's the calculator and the music note. It's in the same, kind of the same area as my picture, my sigma, omega, one more, calculator and music note. This is where I'll find my protractor. And I will click OK. And it's going to put that in there as a big button. It will shorten that up a little bit when you actually create the question. But let's go back up there because I'm not going to have time to do another question. I'll do one more, but I won't be playing around with the tools here. Audio video. So do you need to upload audio or record audio? So if you needed to read the question to the students, you could. Video, you could upload a video, show them something, or I get a lot of questions about sign language. You'd be able to show that question for my students that need sign language. Calculator. Do you need a calculator? Basic or scientific? Do you want radian or degree to be the default unit? And there's your 15-centimeter ruler, as well as the 12-inch ruler. So many different options all in one spot. No, you don't need them all for this question, but wanted you to see where they're all at. All right, not quite done. This was just the question setup. Let's keep going. We want our students to have some options when they answer math short answer. We looked at those as a student. We had keyboard options. We were playing around with stuff. Where did all that stuff come from? Here. What text formatting options do you want for your students? These are the ones you're used to from a regular short answer essay question. Bold, italic, underline. Which ones do you need? But next, what symbols and keyboards do you want your students to have? This particular question calls for the basic keyboard, the keyboard, so that would mean an on-screen typing as well as their computer keyboard, then there's a little option button. We can grab the geometry keyboard. We have pictures of all of these in the training course for you. But look at all those. Matrices, trig, units, Greek letters, chemistry, grouping, calculus. Your students can build formulas with those. The formula doesn't solve it. It's the student building the formula to show you how it would be solved. This one just needs the geometry. What about the default mode? When my student goes to answer the question, do you want them to be typing like text first, or do you want them to have the math keyboards as the option first? This is why I feel like that preview is so important from the teacher view. There's a lot of options here. And it's a lot for your students to take in. It's a lot for you to take in, just as the question writer. All right. And we'll go ahead and we'll click save. We're going to go over by a few minutes, so forgive me for that, but I at least need to start one of the chart options. And we'll just do, we're going to scroll down. There's a chart that Jenny recorded the highest temperature for each month. I'm going to start that one. We'll just do a couple months. We won't do all 12. But at least it gets you the front end portion of the chart, which I think you guys, that'll be good. It's working on it, I think. Maybe not. We're going to hit cancel. And we're going to try one more time. And there it goes. Like I can see it loading. All right. So I'm just going to grab my text real quick and drop that in the question setup. You would have to build the table. Now that's on your description line. So I need 2 rows, 12 columns with a border. And I'm going to click OK. I swear I told it 2. Maybe I told it 3. That's all right. So we're just going to do January, February, March. So you can make the table yourself. And then we're going to fill in the numbers. So my students have to be able to read the chart that I've created for them. You are going to set up all these different components. What is the title of the chart that your students are going to be making? Monthly temperature. What is the maximum y-axis value? 100. The x-axis title is month, and the y-axis title is highest temperature. We're going to scroll down just a bit. We'll come back here to x-axis setup, but let's scroll down. Keep going. Additional setup options. If you've been with me in any of my other sessions, you've heard me say how important additional setup options are. It's where you find the extra features you need to make things work. Well, this is not a bar chart. This is supposed to be a line chart. Well, I need to change that. And I will be able to play around with these, but it's important to note my different chart options. So this is going to be my line chart. I can set my snap to points to 1. So that'll kind of force it to go to a certain number. It's not too much. Let's scoot back up to the setup section. My x-axis setup is going to be my month names. And I would add in all of them. But like I said, we're going for ease of use and getting done quick here. So I put in all the months. Let's scoot down. Oh, now I'm getting it. That's where my x-axis is controlled by what I fill in towards the top under x-axis setup. The value is 0 for all of those. I want the point to be at the bottom. I want it to sit on the axis, on the x-axis line. And then correct answer setup. You have to tell the system what's the answer. For January, it was 40. For February, it's 49. I think March was like 52. And you would do all 12 months. I only did 5 here real quick. The other piece is right under your chart, the correct response threshold. I'm going to set that to 1. What does that do? Gives it a little bit of wiggle room on either side of the answer. So when my student answers, 59, if it isn't in the exact same spot where I put it, it gets marked wrong. Wiggle room. That's what correct response threshold does. All right, we're going to click Save. Once you've created your items, you can always change the point value, which I do recommend because that makes partial credit a lot easier. So like my graphing question, that would be 6 points. The protractor one, I'd have to look at that one, make it 5. And the highest temperature, 12 points, 1 point for each month. Just makes partial credit easier. So when I go to grade it, I can look at it and go, oh, that one was right. Yeah, I'm going to give them credit for that. And I can override the auto scoring that would be on the chart question. All right. Your document that I gave you has way more question types in there, but we touched on how to do all the pieces, how to bring in the calculator, how to bring in a picture. Where do I find the calculator, rulers, and protractors? You have choices for those. If you need to drop off, I understand we're hitting the end time, but I do want to show you grading real quick. You do need to be looking at the webinar screen because you are my students and I'm going to grade your assessment. So the sample math question types and tools test, I'm going to go back into there and across the top I have my tabs and I have grading. I have choices, grade by student or grade by question. I'm going to switch it to grade by question for just a second. Most of them need hand scored, not all of them, about half, because math short answer, the system can't score that for me. I have to. But the rest of them, the system did answer and score for me. I can grade by question. So I can look at that question for the whole class. And score that over on the far right. I can press the replay button and it will show me the work that you did. So just dropping some scores in quick. And then we'll scroll back up to the top. I can go back to all questions. And once items are scored, they drop off the needs grading list. Do I want to score by student? I can see that Nathan's assessment needs scored. It says needs grading. And anything that needs scored will not have a number in there. So I'm just going to drop some scores in quick. And we can see all of Nathan's answers. So you basically score it where the students turned it in. You hear me say that a lot when I do grading questions or when I do a grading session. So that is where you score those different items. The reporting, I'm not done grading everybody's, so I don't have any data, but once everything is scored, you'll get a little chart here that will show you the average. It'll show you all the student names and all of their overall scores. All right, we cram a lot into this session and it does move pretty quick. So I appreciate your time. Let me show you what's in your training course. I will make Wales an admin so she can copy items over. But if you look down in the needs help section, there's a guide to Schoology assessments. So it will take you to the Help Center article. There's some different articles, one for each question type. So if you're like, hey, I really want to know how to build that, we can show that to you. And I will grab, because I know they're on our Schoology YouTube channel. Thought they were in there. They are not. I will find them quick. I will grab, there it is. Nope, that's not it. Schoology Assessments Overview. I will grab this link and then it will give you the different question types and how to build them. So I'll get those gathered up and dropped in your course. The one that's really important is the media album, the math keyboards. Here's pictures of all of them so that you don't have to try and figure out which keyboard has which symbols. We already took pictures for you. They're all in there. So Wales will have all of it for you. You'll have access to all of it. I will put today's recording in here so that you can go back and watch and practice. Sometimes it's just the practice that you really need and knowing where to find the items. I don't doubt that you've got plenty of questions to build. It's how do I build those? And where do I get that calculator? Those were the things we wanted to answer. So hopefully we did that for you today. My session evaluation is up there towards the top. Please take a few minutes. Mr. Alcott, I see you said great refresher from the summer. It was a long time ago. I forgot that we even did this session. You can understand how I didn't remember that, right? So take a few minutes and answer a few evaluation questions for me. I really appreciate it. I'll get everything over to Wales. Thank you guys. You guys have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.